Widow manages to disable Frank Castle, who claims that Hydra Cap is planning on using the Cosmic Cube to restore everyone lost in this whole thing to life. But Widow's not listening, especially when she notices Miles advancing. Instead of just taking the damn shot, she decides to run out and try to get in the middle of it all. And she gets killed for it. She's fine. Her memories got transferred into a clone. She was dead for, no more than a year before she came back. However, the Wasp, one of the young heroes, convinces Miles not to kill Hydra Cap. And he accepts that, changing the vision of what was to come. The heroes are arrested, and Hydra Cap insists on going to see Sharon Carter. He rambles to her that everything has gone wrong, and how he wanted to save everyone and build a better world, but he's so alone and needs Sharon now more than ever. Sharon, however, has finally decided to do something, having constructed a crude shiv, and tries to stab him in the neck. She fails and is formally arrested by him. Well, that utter failure was worth the build-up, I guess. Back in Dreamland or whatever, Red Skull prepares to kill Steve Rogers, but he sees, a ghost of the woman he tried to save, and that brings him hope. Because I guess he was ready to give up when the skull-faced weirdo who killed his friends was getting ready to kill him. Back with the Underground, fortunately most of them survived the destruction of the base, though they feel like the fight is over now. Did none of you but Tony plan for the possibility that this could happen? And hell, Tony's plan was just blow everything up and let God sort it out. Why are you people so bad at this? But fortunately, hope springs eternal as Sam Wilson emerges decked out in his Captain America gear. Is he just keeping a suit and the shield in a duffel bag or something while he was smuggling people to safety, despite being determined not to be Cap anymore? I will give the comic this. The shot of Sam holding up the shield like this is basically a direct reference to Hydra Cap holding up Mjolnir. It's a counter message of inspiration to the despair that Hydra Cap wielding Mjolnir inspired. It's a great moment, and would be an even better callback if the friggin' Free Comic Book Day issue had actually been an issue in the miniseries. But whatever. I will give the book that this was a good moment. I need to keep emphasizing this. The problem with Hydra Cap wielding Mjolnir is entirely in how it's presented in a meta sense, because these are not things that are just in isolation. Art is not independent of the world around us, and Marvel knew that. If they had just established the altered context to begin with, there wouldn't have been a problem. I mean, I still would criticize it for my larger problem with the comic, but it wouldn't have gotten nearly as much flack. Especially because the image of Hydra Cap wielding Mjolnir got a hell of a lot more circulation in the wider world than Sam Wilson holding up the shield did. But let's put that aside because, yet again, the story shoots itself in the foot. As I have said numerous times, Event Comics Month only covers the main event miniseries and not the tie-ins. And while I criticized Zero Hour for a bunch of heroes suddenly being in California out of nowhere, it's probably a small part of the story, and you can wave it off while still following what's going on. But apparently that was not at all good enough for Secret Empire. Not content with a zeroth issue, not content with a Free Comic Book Day tie-in, not content with any of that when it could have all just been in the damn miniseries itself. Suddenly they decided, no, you have to read Captain America number 25 or this story will make no sense. And indeed, that is the case, because all of a sudden our heroes have a plan, as well as a cosmic cube fragment, despite the two that had been taken before were retrieved by Hydra Cap. Now, of course, they included the damn issue in the trade, but that's not the point. It's a shamelessly greedy act to make people buy even more when they couldn't even tell the story in the oversized amount of pages they were given. And what's worse, despite the fact that the recap page for issue 8 of Secret Empire starts with, read this issue after Captain America number 25, you don't actually need to. No, seriously, Sam uses that time machine device, which somehow survived the explosion, I guess, to contact Manhattan and the heroes in space to quickly recap what happened in that issue. A few things are left out in the recap, including that Namor has an ace up his, well, not sleeve, because he never wears any, but you get my point. We discover that Bucky, who had been presumed killed by Hydra Cap before Secret Empire started, is in fact alive and working with Namor. Obviously that wasn't included in the recap because Sam doesn't know about it, but if you didn't read the issue, his sudden return in the main miniseries is just a, wait, what? Moment. Just a quick list of other important details that might have been a good idea to include, even if they're not really necessary. Hydra attacks both Wakanda and the Mutants' country, easily defeating both. Yeah, friggin' Wakanda falls! Mostly thanks to Dr. Faustus managing to mass hypnotize enough of his forces to not fight back. You'd think that they would have the tech to counter something like that when they have the cure for cancer and super advanced everything else, but I guess not! Either way, their cosmic cube fragments got retrieved, along with Emma Frost and Black Panther getting taken prisoner. Oh, and Sam Wilson's speech to the heroes is reinforcing the "we did too much fighting amongst ourselves and trying to do big things to help the world" crap. But now they've got to fight back! Ugh, whatever. They decide to launch their counterattack at the concentration camp where they're housing the Inhumans, which fortunately coincides with the Inhumans trying a little revolt of their own. Together, they overwhelm the Hydra forces, and we're reintroduced to that random guy from the start of the event. His code name is Barf. Yeah, because that's his power. If he can visualize certain things, limited by size, and apparently it has to be for altruistic reasons, he can literally vomit up any object. Tony, also having somehow survived the explosion, gives him a picture of the last remaining cosmic cube fragment, which he is able to... well, you get the idea. Despite the fact that at the beginning he was able to regurgitate an entire lunchbox, apparently nobody thought, hey, maybe he should just vomit up a whole cosmic cube. Also, does that mean that there are two of this piece now? Tony has an idea with the cosmic cube fragment. He witnessed the failed attack by Black Widow and Miles on Hydra Cap and was curious about the fact that the prediction that Miles would kill him could end up wrong, since all the previous predictions were pretty damn spot on. As such, he realized when viewing the footage that Hydra Cap had in his hand a cosmic cube fragment. While they may not possess much power, the individual cosmic cube fragments can still slightly alter reality. Tony tested it with the fragment they had. It couldn't make him a flesh and blood person again, but it could conjure up a cake out of nothing. And in this case, it was enough to alter Miles' destiny to kill Hydra Cap. See, Miles, it wasn't your ethical choice to defy your destiny and not murder someone, taking a stand for a belief in a better world rather than the violent one Black Widow wanted you to be ready for. It was just magic! It's utter nonsense that this was not just part of the main series. If you were just reading the main series and not the tie-ins, Barf's presence at the beginning is just bizarre aside from him bookending the series, and now suddenly anyone who could reasonably oppose Hydra except for the Underground have been captured. But anyway, let's actually get back to that miniseries, shall we? The tide will turn against Hydra if they can get the planetary shield down, as well as free the heroes in Manhattan. So Sam is flying out with the fragment to do his part in that. And Sam, when you're up there, whatever you do, don't think of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Well, now that's all I can think of, Tony! The subplot in space finally becomes relevant again thanks to the Guardians of the Galaxy returning from their attempts to gain allies in the universe. But we got tired of running around the universe asking for help, especially once we realized it'd be a lot easier, and a hell of a lot more fun, to just steal you some. So we stole a few alien armies. Actually, what they stole was a nullifier bomb, basically utilizing the same principle behind the ultimate nullifier, but in explodey form. Which seems like a bad idea to build a bomb out of when you remember the ultimate nullifier has the potential to destroy the universe, but hey, it's been a stressful time for them, and no idea sounds stupid at this point. In Manhattan, Doctor Strange has discovered a spell that could break through the Dark Force, needing to sacrifice the brownstone that serves as the Sanctum Sanctorum in order to do so. What would the librarians want with the Sanctum Sanctorum? Are you serious? Have you ever been on Zillow? That's prime Greenwich Village real estate. They'll probably cut it up into condos. The true enemy of Secret Empire, gentrification. The hope and losing hope thing comes back again in the narration as Sam gets shot down by Hydra jets and it looks like the plans fail. But then yay, good thing happened, Hope is alive again. As is Quasar, as she finally emerges from her coma. Sam uses the fragment to rise from the water, and Maria Hill breaks into the prison where they're keeping Blackout and kills him. The shield breaks, allowing Captain Marvel to deal with the Chitauri eggs, the dome is destroyed, and the narrator says that everyone would remember who led them there and inspired them. Captain America, aka Sam Wilson. So a viewer pointed me in the direction of a review of Secret Empire on MTR Network that was really positive about it, pointing out that the book was just as much about Sam Wilson as it was Steve Rogers. As a reminder, my show is only an opinion. If you got more out of Secret Empire than I did, Good on you. Never take my opinion as gospel. The review did get me to think about the book from a few angles I hadn't considered, especially in regard to the ending, but I still don't think the event is well executed. Not just for reasons I'll get into soon, but also in regard to Sam Wilson. The problem comes down to the fact that Sam isn't really a main character in Secret Empire. He's barely in it for the most part until this point, whereas the lion's share of character stuff on the underground side goes to Tony Stark. For all the talk about Sam Wilson leading and inspiring them, all he did was give a speech that was really more about describing the plan, flying, and then make a wish on the cosmic cube. If the story had been structured around this being his big hero moment after a build-up throughout, his cynicism guiding his choices early on until he finally becomes Captain America again, I'd buy that this was just as much about him, but it really isn't, except in more of a subplot kind of way. Honestly, Tony could have done exactly the same thing he did. Sure, it wouldn't have carried the same symbolic power since Tony was never Captain America, but it doesn't feel as unique as it probably should be given the lack of build-up in the main story. And hell, it kind of feels like that's where the story is heading because he's been the focus of so much of it. Tony's need to give people hope, Pimtron calling him out specifically for his repeated failures to save the world through grand plans, and finally his apology to Steve for trying to be like him and inspire people. I don't think he should have been the one to do it. I want to emphasize this. Sam Wilson is the right one to be doing this, but it doesn't feel like the story is supporting that idea. It just feels empty to me. And so everyone reunites, including Namor showing up with Bucky as they prepare for their final assault on Hydra Cap. With real Steve, he sees the blonde woman again, who's apparently supposed to be Sharon Carter, but she fades away, replaced with the crying figure of Kobik herself. She apologizes for all this, only wanting to make everyone happy, which is now yet another recurring theme of the events we've covered this month. The message I'm getting is, never try to make people happy. And she restores Steve's memories. Black Panther is brought to Hydra's HQ in DC. Steve says they won't kill him yet, they want the world to watch when it happens. The heroes launch their big assault, getting reinforcements from international heroes, Magneto, and even Emma Frost's group, which was only there to surrender the Cosmic Cube fragment, and starts fighting the guards when Steve makes clear he's going to destroy their separate country for the threat they pose to him. The Hydra Avengers counterattack, but even the tide turns there as Odin's son decides he's had enough of this crap and joins with the rest of the heroes. That, in turn, inspires Taskmaster and Black Ant to free the young heroes, who are all still in costumes and their equipment in the same cell for some reason, for the promise of clemency since they realize that they're not going to win this one. With Viv Vision freed, she's able to wipe out the virus controlling the Vision, while Doctor Strange frees Thor from the purgatory she was in, though she soon reverts to Jane Foster, who's dying of cancer, since she's separated from Mjolnir. In turn, Doctor Strange starts exorcising the demon controlling Scarlet Witch. And once she's out, I'd really appreciate it if she whispered, "No more Nazis." I think we can all get on board with that one. Soon, Black Panther gets freed, and along with Bucky, they take down Baron Zemo. Nearby, Sharon Carter is being forced by Dr. Faustus to say "Hail Hydra" and do the salute. And honestly, what's funny to me is that I'm pretty sure I saw this exact same scene in an episode of Archer.
This quit being funny 2 hours ago!
It's not supposed to be funny.
I mean, Faustus even looks like Krieger. But in any case, Sharon's just faking it. She built up an immunity to his hypnotic powers a while ago, so she just got put in a position to poison his tea. While she starts hacking into the systems of the hijacked helicarriers, presuming that if Steve is otherwise the same as normal Steve, he'll be using the same passwords. We see that Hydra Cap is being fitted with a modified version of an Iron Man armor, powered by the mostly rebuilt Cosmic Cube. Inside the Dream, Vision, whatever, Kobik shows real Steve what's been going on with Stevel, and he realizes what he is. Basically just her memory of the man he was. He thinks she can restore him to life, but she runs off because Stevel's too scary. The area starts to shake as Stevel starts accessing the power of the cube. We had thought this was our moment, our chance to change everything, but that didn't mean we would be enough.
Shut up!
Oh, and by the way, the narrator's repetitive dialogue implies that he's there along with the other heroes at this fight. Except he's not. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but the identity really makes no sense when it's revealed. Anyway, Hydra Cap arrives and tries to make a speech about how they need to surrender, that they'll build a world that's stronger and free of corruption, and yeah, the heroes just interrupt and tell him to piss off. But with the power of most of the cube, he wipes them out and then starts altering history. The Fantastic Four, led by Dr. Doom, are Hydra astronauts. Hydra founds the Avengers. Mutants get executed by Cobra Commander. The world starts getting rebuilt. Statues are replaced, like Lincoln with Sir Isaac Newton. Oh good, we had to make sure we immortalized the stupid helmet. However, Sam Wilson arrives, having survived the changes thanks to the cube fragment he's holding, and approaches. For some bizarre reason, they decided to deliberately call back to Steve's last stand against Thanos in Infinity Gauntlet as he approaches. But then he kneels down and says, "Hail Hydra," surrendering the cube fragment to him and claiming he was just trying to save lives. He puts the fragment in with the rest of the cube and it's fully repowered. And then the other shoe drops. Bucky knew that Kobik was just a scared, confused kid, so if they could reach her, she could fix all this. As such, Scott Lang, trying to make up for the whole traitor thing, shrinks him down so he can travel into the cube itself and make contact with both her and the real Steve, who inspires her to stop hiding and actually fight fascists. And so in the real world, Kobik opens a portal or something and just instantly undoes all the stuff that Hydra Cap had just done. No, this can't be happening! Not after all this! You know, dude, all of this could have been avoided if you had just given her a Twinkie. And then she brings back Rio Cap, who's naturally looking kinda pissed about this whole thing. You might wonder why she didn't just erase Hydra Cap entirely, but let's face it, Steve's reputation has been hurt, so it might be a good PR move to show the real Captain America punching the imposter's lights out. As they begin their fight, Bucky wants to intervene, but Sam says not to. No. He needs to finish this. No, Steve does not need to do this on his own. What won the day was everyone working together, united. That is how you stop fascism, through standing together, being united, and punching fascism in the face together. Then again, considering they needed a magic retcon cube girl to fix everything, maybe I'm wrong and that's all you need to defeat fascism. And so the world watched, because I guess someone's actually filming this, and eventually Steve knocks him back enough that he becomes desperate. I guess Mjolnir was still nearby and Steve tries to pick it up, and it's here where it's revealed that the enchantment was changed. Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be stronger, shall possess the power of Hydra. So the power of Hydra is like lightning? They had come to power on the back of a lie some of them even believed, that others let them believe. They had made us feel small, weak, fearful. They had reveled in their strength, their power over us. And here's what I've been leading up to this entire time with my frustrations with this book. It does not understand fascism. It thinks it does, and it seems to be leaning in the direction of it, what with this whole they think they're strong thing. But unfortunately, the comic has kind of spent its entire length reinforcing the lie. See, he was still only able to lift the hammer because of strength. It kind of bought into the greatest lie that fascism ever told, that it is strong, that it is orderly, that it is might and power, and deference to might and power. For the longest time, the popular belief about Nazi Germany was that it was an efficient war machine that took a broken people and almost conquered the world. The truth is, the methods they used were inefficient, corrupt, and ultimately self-defeating. They cared more about propaganda and pushing out an image of fortitude than actually doing anything that would truly help themselves. They used scapegoats, bigotry, anything they could to try to get people on board with the programs, even while they suffered under them. And yet, at every turn, the comic keeps trying to make Hydra look like some unstoppable juggernaut, utilizing seemingly cool iconography, improvements on the world like advancing science and better test scores and more jobs. And sure, the concentration camps and restrictions on free speech and stuff are mentioned, but more like glanced over and ignored, especially since we've got our benevolent leader, Steve Rogers, who just wants to help. Fascism is cowardly. It is selfish. It is self-serving. It is corrupt and greedy. But the writing keeps trying to make Hydra Cap sympathetic. Like he's just regular old Steve Rogers, but bending the rules a bit. And thanks to both the Punisher's talk and the Omega issue, it's revealed he totally planned to just restore everyone who had been killed in all this to life. Not even the rebooting the universe thing of Hal Jordan. Just undo all the damage and everything would be hunky-dory. He's so tortured by all the terrible things he had to do or let others do. He just wants to make the world better. Is that so wrong? Yeah, no. Fascism is not kind. It is not decent. It does not care about the individual, because the individual is subservient to the state, and in particular, whoever runs that state. It is not compatible with Steve Rogers. Fascism does not fight for the greater good, it fights for the exaltation of the inhuman, the commemoration of cruelty, and the hatred of the different. Fascism is a loser ideology. This story thinks that fascism is just a generic dictatorship, and that's especially why it doesn't feel as relevant as Marvel and Nick Spencer wanted it to feel. There's no mention of how people become fascists nowadays. The radicalism, preying on the downtrodden and using them as scapegoats, giving would-be fascists a taste for it by being edgy and bucking against a system that wants understanding and empathy, but they claim is just a nanny state or policing your behavior. It doesn't show how that transitions into starting to hate others for simply being alive, how it takes advantage of their selfishness, turning irony into outright bigotry. It doesn't show the tactics wherein they try to come across as the civil, reasonable ones, when really they're just trying to get a platform to spread their gospel. It doesn't show the bootlickers, the ones who are happily ready to sell out their fellows because they can smell power and opportunity. The ones who do so in the book? Just the misguided, the blackmailed, or the mind-controlled. It doesn't show that it's not really about trying to make the world better, someone changing from insecurity to cruelty. And the cruelty is the point. But it's okay, guys. We'll be fine with fighting fascism in the real world, as long as we can convince a magical glowing cube to snap her fingers and bring Captain America back to punch his evil duplicate, who's supposed to be the same as him, except he likes green and yellow more. Speaking of, yeah, the comic states that indeed Hydra Cap had never been worthy, but the real Cap most certainly is, and he sucks Hydra Cap but good, to his utter shock and amazement. And it is a very satisfying image, don't get me wrong, it's what we've wanted to see this whole time, but honestly, its message about him not really being worthy comes across more like, well, we weren't afraid of him because we saw him getting his ass kicked, and that's why he's not strong anymore. Steve hands over the shield to Sam, stating it belongs to him now, and in turn returns Mjolnir to Jane Foster. This is another bit in that review I mentioned that had a good point about, but I recommend you read it for yourselves if you're so inclined. This review has gone on almost as long as the comic, and we should start wrapping up. Check the link in the description for it. Kobik restores history to its rightful way of being. No Isaac Newton forming Hydra, but she left the scars and wreckage, a reminder of our promise. Never again. Yeah, I'm sure the millions in Las Vegas who were killed thanks to her oopsie appreciate just being a wag your finger moment to not let fascists storm in with an army of death vehicles to conquer us. I mean, that one's our bad, guys. The same goes for Rick Jones and Black Widow, still dead except for that whole clone thing. And Rick Jones, I guess, came back as a monster being experimented on. I don't know. Oh, and Hydra Cap, despite history being restored, is not erased. Yeah, he's locked away in a prison after this. Even though Kobik hated him, hated everything he did, she lets him stick around. What a crock, especially from a meta perspective. Why is he still here? His story is over. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants evil Nazi Captain America still in existence. Nobody wants Secret Empire 2. The best you could argue is that it's a reminder to be vigilant about the return of fascism, but that just implies that we'll never be rid of him. Just like any other supervillain that sticks around, because they need to keep making money off of him. Whatever. In the epilogue, the Inhumans are released. I thought they were already out when their camp got liberated in Captain America number 25. And Barf is forced to sign an agreement that he won't try to sue the US government for the whole putting us in concentration camps thing.
I'm the government, I'm the government, I'm the reason nothing works.
Can you imagine the US government running internment camps and trying to get out of legal responsibility for the part they played in it? Barf doesn't care though, he just wants to be reunited with his son. Not sure what happened to the kid in the meantime, but his house is a wreck and vandalized. He promises to fix it up later, but then his community comes together to help repaint it and fix it up. Their way of trying to make some atonement for contributing to his imprisonment. It's a nice sentiment there, at least for the complicity. But then again, they're not really that complicit, at least how it was presented in the comic. We see that indeed, it was Barf who was our narrator the whole time. Yes, our dramatic narration talking about hope, heroism, and what to do in the face of overwhelming odds comes from a guy named Barf. Yeah, kind of makes sense for this story. And so our comic ends with the little kid and the kid who had outed his father as an Inhuman fighting over a toy of Sam Wilson as Captain America. The true message of Secret Empire: we can all be united via merchandising. As I think I have made clear in this massive undertaking, this comic sucks. There's not much more of a wrap-up I can really do after all this, since we've been discussing its massive thematic and writing problems throughout the review. It's too long, it doesn't really understand its message, and just from a structural standpoint, the event doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. A quest story? A weird meditation on hope? How we shouldn't put all our faith in symbols? Well, that can't be it, because according to the story, everyone forgot they needed to oppose fascism until Sam Wilson held up a shield. The art on the event is actually pretty good, except it's not consistent. Before the recap and title page of each issue, there's a little cutaway to some part of the event with a different art style than the main book. And hell, there is no real consistent art for the main book either. Plenty of issues have very radically different color tones and palettes. None of them are bad, but it just feels weird because the shifting styles and colors make it lack cohesion. And I guess that's consistent with the book not really knowing what the hell it wants to say.
What is the point of this thing?
Whew. This event was a heavy one. Dealt with a lot of important themes and ideas. And I'm sure next time we can have something lighter and breezier to talk about when we go over Heroes in Crisis. And Sam, when you're up there, whatever you do, don't think of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Can do!
New York is being destroyed by an 80-foot Ed Koch. How am I doing?
Hey guys, no storyline segment. Sorry if you skipped ahead to see if there might be one. We're still in a pandemic, so we can't get together to film the next one that needs to happen. Behind the scenes, we're working to come up with some material to fill the time, including a change to the Halloween storyline that'll still work for the Contest of Champions, even if it wasn't originally intended to be. No, I'm here to tell you about the totally awesome Extreme Stream! Yes, for several days in a row, I will be streaming some Pokemans, just like the multi-day stream I did last year. And for pretty much the same reasons, unfortunately. So, what's going to differentiate this year's stream from the last one? Well, we're doing another Gen 1 fully randomized Nuzlocke, except instead of yellow, it's red! I kid, that's not the only difference. We're not randomizing Pokemon types this year, because it was easy to keep track of 151 different types. not so much for about 700. Yeah, you heard me. The randomizer we'll be using for this is Sanqui.net, which allows you to put Pokemon from generations 2 through 6 into Pokemon Red, with many sprites done up to how they might look if they had been introduced in Gen 1. So let's take on the Kanto region this time, but with Pokemon found as far away as Kalos, shall we? Come and join the fun in the Pokemon Red Randomized Nuzlocke Challenge on July 29th through the 31st, starting at 1 p.m. Central Time on YouTube and going until we beat the game. Or when I need to sleep, because I need to sleep sometimes. But only sometimes. Watch us play the Pocket Mans! Get emotionally attached to said Pocket Mans! And then get upset when we have to shove them in a box because they fainted, and that's how Nuzlocks work. Look at these cool graphics that the game show reviewer made! Look at them! Look at them!